Uh-oh.
Maybe now we can talk? Hopefully it didn't screw that up too bad, but
Yep. I mean, I don't know. I can't see the stream or hear the stream. I just have
oh,
chat up. So if you're in
well,
chat,
yeah, tell us if there's audio or not. Okay, sweet.
okay.
I guess we
Yeah, it
missed
says
that
we can
first
listen.
juncture, so
Perfect. What's up,
there
Cheese?
was a
What's up,
big
Mad?
giveaway for $10,000. Just you guys all missed it
Sorry, you missed it. Too late.
because I had the mute turned on.
Yeah. That's
No,
exactly what happened. So,
yeah, we're just saying
yeah,
it's a big day. Thank
yeah, it
you.
is.
We missed that follow. I just put that away too. Oh, going great. Followed us two
Yeah.
days ago. Thank you for the follow.
Yep. So we're just redoing the first 4 minutes of our show here
Hey,
because we're scrubbing out tonight.
look,
Um, So much Harold cheese, that's for sure. Yeah, we're going to talk about that tonight a little bit. I think I know. I think I have a pretty good inclination why that happened. I certainly know why I chose Harold. I didn't expect five Heralds. I really didn't, to be totally fair.
why he's great. I
He is good. He is very good. But I'm not sure he's. I still think that some of the best Phoenix Borns. In fact, I think one of the best Phoenix Borns got left completely out of this tournament, which is surprising. We'll talk about that a little bit too. But just so everybody knows, the reason you don't see my beautiful face on stream tonight is Neil is hosting because in an hour I'm going to be playing my round 3 Ashteki matchup, and I want to give Ashteki a little love on stream tonight. And Waves and I are going to be playing our round 3 um, matchup. So stick around for that. That'll be here in about an hour. And so we thought we'd fill the first hour tonight with just talking about the season 2 and the kickoff of season 2. And since Neil is hosting, yeah, I don't have a webcam because the webcam I use is a Canon DSLR, and this Canon software doesn't work inside of Discord. So
yeah
I can't. We have to set up a Zoom call in order for my
yeah
uh,
your very expensive nice camera just is useless.
Well, Canon, to be fair, doesn't actually intend for these to be used as webcams, so that's some of the issue. And it's an older one, which is also the problem. If I had a
Yeah,
newer Canon, it wouldn't be no problem. But this older Canon, there's only one piece of software that'll work with it because it doesn't possess what's called a clean HDMI out. So they made a utility for it that allows you to plug it in through USB, which works just fine as long as I'm hosting.
right.
So as soon as I'm not hosting, it becomes a problem. But anyways, and at some point we will get Neil's smiling
Yeah.
face on stream as well.
Yeah,
But
if
he's just
Amazon can
scrubbing.
ever ship me a table that isn't like just thrown against the wall of the truck or whatever.
Yeah,
I've
for
returned
sure.
3 tables in a row because the tabletop surface was damaged when I took it out of the package. And I'm
That
getting
sucks.
real frustrated because the first two were I like bought a table, it was damaged. Okay, whatever. I return it, I get the same item, comes back damaged in the exact same way. I get a different
Right.
item, also damaged in a different way. Like
Hmm.
I don't know what the deal
That's
is.
rough.
I guess I've never really ordered large things from Amazon, but that
I've
frustrates
never
me.
ordered furniture from him, so I mean I've always just bought my furniture
I mean,
through local stores.
right. It's just like a cheapo table, right? Like it's like
Right.
particle board that
Hmm.
is has that veneer on it to make it look real, and that's why it's so easy to like crush.
Sure.
But it,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if chat cares about any of that, but I'm aggravated. That's why we're not playing with real cards, and that's why we're not. I don't have the full
Yeah.
setup.
Yep. I just like to call him a scrub. He just keeps scrubbing out on this. So, um,
Look, I'll just
Jesus,
mute you.
exactly.
I'm in
Yeah.
control now.
Yeah, he has the wheel. Chat. Look out.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so we're gonna talk about this season 2, the deck list. I'm assuming Neil, you'll be able to put those up on screen if you haven't already.
Yeah,
Um,
I got the right now. It's just our cartoon faces,
okay.
Shufflebus playmat layout at the top of that thing, but I have it ready to talk about whenever.
Awesome. Yeah, I
I
think
don't.
we'll just spend the next hour or so discussing it, and then I'll jump into my
Right.
match with
There's no
Wade.
way we'll probably get through all the decks, but we can
No,
try. And
25 decks is a lot to get through for sure. So
right,
I think
I
we
mean
could.
the number of players is great. Like
I agree.
we want it's not a ton more than last time, but it's some more, and it's different folk. Like that's good.
Yep, we
We're happy
added
about
some new
that. We
players.
appreciate. we appreciate all you guys that signed up.
Absolutely. It's it helps us reinforce that we're doing the right things. I mean, because sometimes it's a lonely world making content, and sometimes you feel like you're shouting into an empty room. So for all of you that come and spend time chatting with us, we love you all. And when people decide to show up and play in our tournaments, that means that we're doing something right there too. And so I want to give a shout out because a lot of people, and I'm not going to name each person because I got a number of these, but through most of the deck list submissions, I just got a lot of thank yous for doing this. And so we love you guys. This is why we're doing it. And we wouldn't want to do anything different. So thank you for even giving us a little bit of love. I can't tell you how much that means to us to know that you're enjoying what we're doing for the community. Because I mean, it's as long as people are loving it, we'll keep doing it. That's the bottom line. If it gets to a point where people are like, you know what, we're not, then I mean, obviously, there's not much point for us to keep pressing on. So the fact that we made it through the first season and some of the hiccups that came with tie breaks in the first season, and got into season 2 now, I think that's a big milestone for us. And I think the sky's really the limit. And Matt, it's cool that you're just a spectator, man. You should really get in on this though, man. You'd have a ton of fun. It really is a very healthy and positive environment. I mean, there's no stakes involved. It's really just about that means you were a founder, dude. I think you were one of our first subs, man.
Yeah,
I think you're a 2-month sub on top
you
of
get
that. So
that you
thank you
get
for
that
that.
number one because you subscribed the first month we were active.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's totally cool, Matt. I've had a lot of people tell me the same thing, that once we're moved over to Ash Techie, they'll play as well. Yeah, so you are a founder of this channel. Like you are OG, man. um, yeah, so we're happy to do this. I mean, it's I apologize for those of you that were watching Decklist go up last night. I had some formatting errors in InDesign that created some problems, and somehow in the process of actually creating the PDF from InDesign, um, one of the deck lists just got changed randomly. It gave me an error, and I was like, well, that's a weird error. And I just went ahead and proceeded with it because I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't be doing that. And then the rendered PDF actually came out with somebody else's deck list in somebody else's slot. And that was like, well, that's what the error was about. But I don't know how the error triggered. So I figured I fixed that. And then for whatever reason, the scaling and formatting of the image files for 2 cold decks weren't correct, so I had to correct those again. So the third version of the file is pinned on the Discord. So if you're looking
I
and you
hope
want
this
to
is the right
follow
one.
along with us, this is the right one. Yeah, it's corrected 2 is the correct file.
Oh,
So make
that
sure
is
you
what
got.
this says.
Okay, so that is the correct one.
All
So
right, let's.
so let's get into it because we're going to be up against time for sure when it gets time to start this match with Waves here in just a little bit.
Yeah, so just starting at the top in no particular order. Are these like,
They were
or
alphabetized. They were alphabetized until we had 7 editions yesterday afternoon, and I was like, I'm not going to reorder the
this is
InDesign file
mostly the alphabet?
So when you get past who is it? When you get past Philly cheese, then it was just brought in order of people that signed up yesterday, and there were 6 signups yesterday that happened out of actually it was after Waves, so there was the 7th Philly cheese. No, no, just 6. No such method was it. So okay, I had to think about which order I was laying these out to get it correct, but I laid them out alphabetical in left to bottom, so it's left to right, top to bottom, and yeah. So, anyways, but let's start with Brian because he was alphabetically and in the right area, and
Right.
he's playing a Herald list, and this is a pretty interesting Herald list.
It's
Uh,
like a mill deck almost.
yeah, that's why I said it was a little interesting because of the Three-Eyed Owl and the Magic Siphons, and then
It's just like a control deck that has some like win the decking race elements, right? Like
and it's got his favorite first 5 thing of summon Salamander Monk to Essence Druid, meditate the Salamander Monk to Essence Druid, Salamander Monk back. I mean, he did that in AIL, and we're seeing it again here with Herald. I do like it with Herald because you get a little extra value out of the Salamander Monks with Hunter's Mark. So I do think that's kind of a neat way to approach like making a couple of small guys. And Brian does love his salamander monks. You're absolutely right, Cesare, for sure.
Yeah,
So, and am I
it's a
saying that
good
right?
card.
Cheeseret or Ceseret? I'm not sure. You can tell me how to correct that at any time, please. So,
I thought it
um,
was I thought it was Chezeret because there's a magic card that's Tezzeret. It's spelled the same way as the end of the name, but I don't know.
I don't know either. So,
But
um,
yeah, I mean Harold is strong. I thought Harold was under. Did we even have a single Harold in the last one?
we didn't. There wasn't a
Yeah,
single
I
Herald.
thought that was pretty criminal.
Yeah, I do
Obviously
think
that has
Herald is.
changed dramatically.
Yeah, we saw the pendulum shift the entire opposite direction, and I think that comes from a Neil gets it. It was the
Yeah,
original inspiration back in
from
the day.
from
Perfect. Okay.
Tezzeret, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He's also just got an ally toolbox here, right? He's just got a bunch of one of allies that gives him a lot of options in his first five, outside of the River Skull, the one of River Skull, which I find interesting. I wonder why, like, if why you play a one of River Skull if you can't put it in your first five in this tournament, because it seems very unlikely to draw. Like if you have to do any meditation, but of course maybe through magic siphons he just doesn't have to meditate.
It's
Maybe
a
that's the
like I mean he's got two ceremonial dice too, like
sure. So he can recur it if he needed
yeah.
to. Yeah, yeah. I just thought that was an interesting decision
How many
because
three drops does he have? He has two Blood Archers, an Essence Druid, two Master Vampires, two Sonic Swordsmen. So yeah, he's got a bunch of
yeah,
3 damage River Scalds. So it's like a
two,
fine thing to
four,
pick up.
five. They're like he's got 7 3 drops in the list. So I mean that's a
Yeah.
lot of three
And
drops even just to play.
and they're all ceremony recurable too. So
Right.
like the River Scald has plenty of action.
I really like Blood Archer with Mark as well. I think that's a really good card with Mark.
I just think that's a good card. I think Blood Archer
Right.
is very good.
It gets extra value when you mark a target, so I think that's also very cool.
Yeah.
Again, not a lot of action spells. Like he is just really heavy on this ally plan.
Yeah, it's all
Adrenaline Rush.
men
Yeah,
and
I'm sure he's got that one of Dispel if he expects a first five root armor. That's I actually considered this in my own list as well, and ended up not making it into the cut, but um, that may prove to be a mistake as I've seen the list now in more of a whole. But lots of reactions. So consume souls and crescendos and golden veils and redirects. So I like redirect a ton, especially with Harold who has a smaller life pool.
he
I'm
has
not
the set of consume souls, so his life pool is more like 18.
right,
Uh, it's like
and I'm not a
it's like
big
18, almost 20. You can pretty
right.
much guarantee one.
Sure. I'm just not a big fan of 3x of this, but I also understand why somebody would run 3x of it. So
He
just
also has a reclaim soul, so like he's got 4 heal 2s.
right. That's true.
Um,
That's true. So
which I think is
I
fine. I think that's an interesting card.
yeah.
His
Yep.
deck
So
doesn't. I guess he has the monks, so reclaim soul has some more value.
absolutely.
It's
Because you can get value out of the monk and then reclaim soul for a couple points of life and to get the spirit. So all good plays there, and I like this deck a lot. I think it's got obviously a ton of ally pressure. It'll be curious to see how well it plays in general overall because there is a risk with 7 3 drops that you're just going to end up with a hand flooded 3 drops that you can't play all of them.
yeah.
And
Um his books are 2 dice every turn though, so like
right,
he has the dice space to play multiple 3 drops if necessary, and like he has like the Hunter's Mark Swordsman thing.
right.
Um,
And I love Hunter's Mark Swordsman. I think that's a great combo.
yeah,
So I think this is a solid and strong deck, no doubt about it.
it's
And it's going to have a big health pool.
it will be disadvantaged in the very late game because it only has one real book, and the real book it makes is a 1/1.
Right,
But the Owl and the Magic Siphon kind of make that up by racing the decking.
right.
So we'll see. It's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely is. So I think we'll obviously I think this is a deck to watch. And Brian's a very competent and strong player. He's
I think Brian's fun to
obviously
watch.
yeah. So I think it'll be one of those decks that if we can get it on stream at some point in this tournament, that'll be great. Because I'd like to see it piloted and ran and see how it goes. Let's move on to Chaos Monkey. Chaos Monkey is playing yours and mine. Probably, it's my second favorite Phoenixborn. Probably it's pretty high on your list, I would think, though, and that's
I still think
Odette.
Odette's the best Phoenixborn, just personally.
Sure.
Just like she has so much going for her, but uh, this looks pretty similar to like Matt's deck from last time,
Yeah,
except
I
it
think it is
doesn't
pretty
have
close.
the it's like the actual cards in the 30 aren't super close, but the like first five and the setup is very similar. It just has Lioness instead of Bear,
Right.
because obviously it's not playing nature, which something to say about these first two decks. We were overrun with nature last tournament. There's no nature dice in either of these decks.
Right.
Um, so
I do think that'll make up as we get further and deeper
yeah,
into the.
probably, but
but
I just find
but
that
these decks
interesting.
are both sans nature or natural dice. I like the Lightbringer with Odette a lot because it's just a pretty easy exhaustion tool.
It's just a very
Um,
good book, and
and
this
it
deck is
works
heavy
extremely
in
well.
divine.
Yeah, and it works extremely well when you start talking about like um, Master Vampire counter swings and Winged Lionesses with stock and things like that, where you can then kill the exhausted unit if you wanted to. And Odette gets to leave the door open then for removal of something else. So I think Lightbringer is a really solid play. Again, the Salamander Monk I also think is a great book. Same reason that Brian runs it. It's just an excellent book. Um, there's nothing really cheeky here. The 3x Meteor, I would be curious to see how that works out because I feel like you have enough control with Odette to keep your opponent's board in check most of the time through sword and through uh, the enter the fray. But I wonder if this is a deck where Meteor would hurt you more than it would help you,
Well,
especially when you've got Grave Knight and Swordsmans and Vampires.
well,
That
the
that
vampire
seems
and the
like a real
swordsman
problem.
don't die to it, right? Like,
Yeah, but it gets them really close and puts you in range of a lot of other cards in the game,
right. I
right?
mean,
And
the thing
just
about Meteor is like Wrath of God and Magic, right? Like, there are creature decks that play Wrath of God. You just like play in a way that it's good,
Mhm.
so you don't commit your stuff to the board before the Wrath, and then you save
Agreed.
up. But that's less good in a game like this where you just refill to 5 every turn.
Right.
But I mean, I'm never gonna fault somebody for playing 3 meteors. That card's extremely
No,
powerful.
for sure, for sure. So it's got the cheeky two of Seeds of Aggression, which I kind of like with the Winged Lioness. Like if you can get value out of the Lioness and then seeds it and then die, like that's really
Seeds is also just another good card.
yeah,
Like,
I agree.
uh, we see a choke in both these decks, which I think is cool.
Yep. Choke
Uh,
in both decks. One of Choke, and I think those are really important. Particularly strong in a field of heralds for sure, and also it's a good answer to Mayoni, right? Like it's a way to make
yeah,
Mayoni a
I
little
think
less problematic. So,
there are a lot
I,
of turns where like a choke is a blowout, but
mhm,
it's not every turn. So I think that that's like a fine one of to have. It's a powerful
yep.
spell. Um,
Couple of blood chains in the Odette list as well. I think
he's
blood
heavy
chains
on
is probably pretty
removal.
solid. Yeah, he's got a lot of hard removal in this deck,
Again,
and
Bloodchain's not really a big deal for him because of the monk book, and he's
right,
got a raptor herder,
and just Lightbringer after you've played a Lightbringer,
right, and
right? Like
Lightbringer. Yeah,
yeah, you've
there's
got three really good targets there, pretty much all time. So
and his deck is the kind of deck that has the potential for like the double mode of Bloodchains.
right,
Um, I don't know if you'll ever do that, but a deck like this that has a lot of beefy dudes can like
right,
trade their dudes and then stack them instead of like letting your opponent attack back.
absolutely.
Um,
So I mean, this looks like a pretty much a dudes fight dudes deck with a lot of control elements, hard removal, which I'm a fan of. I think that we didn't see enough of that in season one, and so this looks like a pretty good
yeah.
response
I mean, Sword of
in
Virtue is
season two.
just insane, right? It's super
It
good as
is,
just like kill target thing. It's also super good at like untap Master Vampire or untap Grave Knight. Like,
or untap Sonic
woof.
Swordsman in this. Yeah, both of those are really good in those situations as well.
Right.
So
Swordsman is also good, but I think specifically Vampire and Knight are both better to untap because they both like essentially kill a dude when you do that.
absolutely, yep.
Um,
It's just two dice kill a dude is basically
yeah.
what that turns into one way or the other. So
All
let's
right.
move on. Cheese, we got your deck up, Ches. Um,
So he's got the
What's
Symboli, which
yeah, the one of Simbali in the whole tournament, running that Simbali. I'm excited to see how you do with this, man, because let me tell you, like I kind of like Simbali as a whole. I think that her ability is interesting. I don't think Purify is a bad card and by any stretch of the imagination, and um, I think that there's a lot of value that can be had with Symboli. Although Purify sort of fights like what Symboli wants to do, so I think
well,
you've got a nice mix up here where you've got the Battle Seer and the River Scalds are both decent enough to untap.
like essentially every dude other than Battleseer is great to Purify.
Right.
Like Hollow Flute Mage, River Scald, and Shepherd all have like good come into play effects. Flute Mage being
Yep.
like the worst kind of, but if you actually get to like tap something and then or like tap it and then bounce it,
Right.
uh, you get a bunch of
And I think
value.
I think you got a solid summon book with False Demon. I think False Demon is a very
Yeah,
underrated summon
I
book.
I think it's fine. It's definitely the best of the. I think anyway, it's the best of the cheap illusion guys.
Yep. I
Um,
like the 3x Steady Gaze here also. I think that card is woefully underrepresented in terms of play, and I think Gravity Training is super awesome with Battle Seer. I think that's um, a great card for combo. If you can keep your Battle Seer alive, then I think you're in really, really good shape. The 2x Meteor is solid here also as a removal.
I'll be interested to
Yeah,
see what the Spectral Assassin actually does.
yeah. I
Um,
am the Spectral Assassin to me is the like one card that I'm not sold on in your list, man. But I think that it's a good card, and it definitely plays on the return your allies to make ETB effects under the battlefield effects, and you've got a bunch of allies for that. Yeah, exactly. I just wonder if it gets too deep in the bounce, and we'll see. So I look forward to hearing your results and getting your feedback on the list after you've got a few rounds in with it, because um, I think all of those things are really solid plays, and Assassin's kind of neat because of the no reaction play when it attacks. And if you were expecting a field of outmatches, Assassin's pretty good at stopping outmatch. Yeah, I don't think any of those are bad decisions at all,
right. So we,
man. I
we
think
actually two things. We haven't seen a nature die yet in three decks, and we haven't seen a time die yet in three decks.
nope, nope, nope. And we'll get to the time is not as well represented as I think we thought it was going to be. It represents about 25% of the field. So it's still a decent chunk, but it's not as big as we thought. So we're going to get into our first nature deck here, and this is actually going to be a five color deck Herald list.
It's
Looks like
yeah. I mean, it's five ish, right? Like
right. It's got the one of charm, which is just for the gilder. I'm sure. I don't think there's anything else I'm seeing in the list that requires that. There's a blood archery. I guess you can use that in a later round. And then it's got the one of divine, and that must be for the Lightbringer
he's got a Celestial Knight.
and Celestial Knight. Yeah. Um, okay. I mean, so again, another ally toolbox deck here. Big allies, Hammer Knight, Celestial Knight. I'm curious to see how Celestial Knight goes. I think that onboard armor is not
It's a very
not to
powerful
be trifled
guy,
with. It is, and I just think it feels generic enough that I feel like it's hard to use. But I think when you've got Herald, it makes the Knight much better. And then we just got a five books with a three battlefield. So that'll be
well,
interesting to see what the
it's
decisions
four
are.
books and a Frostbite, right? Like some of these must be
Right.
matchup specific.
Yeah, that's what they have to be, right? We're picking False Demon, Frostback Bear, Gilder, or Lightbringer based on what we're doing. So uh, I'll be curious to also see the results of that, because it does essentially mean that you're playing with, instead of playing with 25 cards post first five, you're actually playing with like 23 or something.
Yeah,
I
but it
mean,
doesn't
it's
make any
it's
difference. Like
no.
it's there are blanks you draw in every game. It
Hmm.
might as well be those, right? Like
Sure.
uh
Assuming
I
that the rest of the cards are not blank, then that makes it very good. I agree. That's the real key there. But I like seeing the five dice split. I mean, going four dice deep in one color and then still having four other colors for your last six is pretty aggressive.
right.
So we'll see.
The large majority of his things are playable off of just the nature and the ceremonial.
Correct, and the illusion. I mean, it's really those are the three core colors.
Well,
Uh,
what illusion cards are there? Celestial Knight.
False Demon, Celestial Knight, and Rosefire
I
Dancer,
guess a Mist Typhoon. It's
and
like all
Mist
like
Typhoon.
one of things. Like the ceremonials, there's many more of. There's
Right.
Blood
3x
Archer,
Fire Archer.
Fire Archer, Hammer
Yeah,
Knight,
this really does this
Choke,
deck does have the
Fester.
ability. Yeah, because this deck does have the ability to really pivot into a burn deck if it wants to. Right, like the 3x Frostbite gives you that option. The Fire Archers give you that option. Like you can just
It's
sort
got
of
a lot
create a
of it's
small
got a
board
lot of
play.
like incidental damage.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um,
So I think this is a good variation on Herald. I love Frostbite Bear with Herald, so I think
Weird
that
that two cards that are very good are good.
yeah, right, it's funny how that works. So,
Yeah,
so let's move on to Josh's deck. We're four deep, and we've already spent a half hour, so we're
right.
definitely
I
not
mean, we
getting
knew how
through
this
this
was
one
gonna go.
tonight.
So here's the Jericho, which is exciting to
Jericho,
me.
yes, and
Um,
this is my round one opponent. So I'm playing Josh round one, and this is a creeper Jericho list. And I've had a chance to look at it. There is a lot of tokens here.
this is
There is
just
just
like status tokens list. It's not even just creepers, right? Like
right.
he has
Oh yeah,
the
no,
hunt
it's
he has the hunt masters and the standard bearers. He has a explosive growths. It's
this is going to be a really challenging list to fight. To be totally fair, like I think between the 2x out matches, the crescendos, having the two Nature's Wrath, I'm less concerned about the Nature's Wrath in my list when we get to my list, but basically, like Blink is a solid stop a blocker type of play. The accelerates are really good here for all of a sudden making big explosive growth plays. There's a
Accelerate
lot
is
of
very good in this deck for sure.
yes, yeah. So I think that with the time hoppers and all of this, and then all the tokens and being able to make standard bearer big, fast, and make hunt masters bigger and faster with explosive growth. I mean, it's going to create some um, real tough situations, especially when you talk about just how efficient creepers can be. And Jericho's going to make creeper come online very fast. I don't know if creeper is how he'll come online right away, or if he'll come online with the time hopper. We'll have to see, but it's going to be a tricky list in general,
The
and
time hopper in this deck is like maybe do one and turn my
yeah,
creepers on, right? Like turn
absolutely,
my
that's what it's all
standard
about.
bearers on.
Absolutely, they're just support for those token use. I mean, even turning the hunt master on to explosive growth like makes a big hunt master, and if you can blink that, blink a defender away and let hunt master just eat, right, like the hunt master can easily turn into us, 5-6 attack unblockable guy in this deck. So lots of cool things going on. Crescendo is obviously just super powerful in this list, where you can sack a hopper, do all those kinds of
Right.
things.
Crescendo's a good card. We've seen it in a bunch of decks already.
And it has my
Um,
favorite. It has my favorite Uniguard, Turtle Guard. So there you go. But I think this is a solid list. I've not
it's
seen a
it's a
creepers
list
list.
that I like hope is good because it's cool, but
Mhm.
I just have no way to actually gauge.
Yeah,
Like it's
I'm
not
I'm with
really
you.
like when I played creepers recently, obviously it wasn't as heavy on like the counters as this. It did have a lot of counters though, and it still felt kind of lackluster. But maybe the
Yeah.
time hoppers make that up. So this is one I'm excited to watch because it's definitely full of new stuff.
Yep. Well, I will have it. I will record it tomorrow night. I play Josh tomorrow night, so it will be on our YouTube channel for everybody to watch here soon. And yeah, I mean,
And
it's
if you
something
think
that
this deck is cool, I'm playing my match tomorrow, and the deck I'm playing against is something
I
else.
yeah. Well, we'll talk about that if we get to Red King's deck. I mean, Red King is the king of name decks that somehow work. So
It's
just fair warning on that. But let's move on to Cam's list. I
yeah.
mean,
I wish
Cam's
I had
here. I
more
think.
to say about your deck, Josh, but I'm just excited to see it. I don't know how
Yeah.
to really
I don't know how to. I'm
like
out of
explosive
evaluation
growth
on
is really good, so maybe you'll win off just that. But
it.
I hope that you do a
Well,
bunch of sweet stuff.
he's got really good. I mean, he's got good removal options with Nature's Wrath and Crescendo. I just don't know if they're going to be good enough. So, yeah, here comes Just Cam with bringing that solo Astria to the tournament in season two. You are a brave soul, Cam.
I think
I
she's fine
applaud you.
still.
I want to rewind to 2 weeks ago when I played Astria, and Neil told me she wasn't good enough. So let's just Neil is
I
Neil is
said
like a
I said
politician. He's
fine, right?
pivoting.
Like I didn't say great. What do you want me to what do you
but
want me to
but
do? Like I I
here's
admit
the
that
thing.
I admit that recently I have been more impressed with her Phoenix Born ability. Like one
Matt
dice
says creepers are
exhaust a
better at
guy
1.5.
is um stronger than I thought it was.
Cam, you've gone deep in illusion here, bud. Like deep into illusion. I like it. I'm down with this. I think this is cool. Yeah, Matt, I think that you're right. Like it there is some issues with them. We won't beat the creeper train to death here because I mean it's yet to be seen. I mean Josh could surprise us here and put something together that
Right.
you
I
know,
mean, the turtle dice just in general makes creeper much better. It can't make it worse.
correct.
Uh,
And the accelerate allowing you to
which
essentially do
is
double turtle.
that is something that I have flip flopped on because originally I thought that it hurt all those status counter guys, but just like the amount of times that people are actually playing it, like it's always a splash because it only has one deck. Time is so shallow. You're just splashing it, so you don't have this access of time dice
Mhm.
to really just like focus on killing your opponent's creepers or whatever. So I think the time dice is in general positive for them. So whether it's good or not, I can't say. Is it better than it was before Jericho was printed? Yes, I think it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, so let's get into Cam's list here. We got the one of body inversion. I love body inversion. You know I love body inversion. Um, yeah, so we've got yeah. Cam says she likes to control with small battlefield, and Illusion likes to control and surprise. Absolutely. So the body inversion here is probably super solid, just as an answer to most of what your opponent's doing. Um,
I mean,
I mean, I don't
I'm like
see.
the exact opposite on body inversion. I don't like it very
I
much,
I
but
know.
I mean, it's more playable than I give it credit for, and I think it's less playable than you give it credit for.
Sure. It's
um,
somewhere in the middle there. The 3x strength in here, um, I'm not a big fan of 3x strength unless you have a way to bring that focus to online. But I don't
well, you just
see
get
open
second
memories. But
activation of it, right? Like
well, sure, absolutely. So let's. I mean,
this
but
is one like this.
what I do love about strengthen with Salamander Monk is, man, does your opponent not want to block a Salamander Monk that's a 3/1 like at all? Like never do they want
Yeah,
to do that.
I mean, it's great with
And
those
so
tiny guys. Shadow Spirit's the same.
yeah, Shadow Spirit's also really good.
Just
Body invert seared,
like
kill any
little
knight.
dudes
Yeah,
that the strengthen turns into some amount of value.
I can see that
Um,
as an answer, Cam, as long as they don't have a root armor on. You can body invert the knight to kill. That makes a lot of sense. Um, I don't think that's a bad play at all. I like Shadow Spirit, and I like the Salamander Monk, although you have to be careful
so that
up against sweepers
this is a
or
deck I
core.
think Gates is cool in,
Mm-hmm,
because the cost of his ready spells is what like assuming he has all ready spells in play, it's one, two, three, four total.
mm-hmm,
So you could do all of the books twice. Well, you do all the books, then you do one additional book from each one twice
mm-hmm,
for seven, eight
mm-hmm.
if you include the gates. So that's like a thing. I think it seems pretty
Yeah,
good.
and it still gives you. I mean, you don't have the extra card, but it still gives you Astray ability round one, which is very solid.
Yeah, I mean
So
this looks like a deck where gates isn't like great round one, but it's good to draw later in the game when you have a spellboard set
I,
up.
I agree, and we're seeing the Spectral Assassin again here. So I'm excited to see again how Spectral Assassin ends up playing game over game, and I look forward to some of these players
Yeah,
kind of maybe giving
he's got
some feedback.
his spectral assassin doesn't look as good as the Symboli one, but it's still okay. He's got Rosefire Dancer to recur, he's got
And
Hollow to
Hollow,
recur, and he's got Shadow Guard. I think is a good thing to bounce because
yeah, it's not a bad.
you like sneak it in and then
You can attack with it and then bounce it back to your hand for
like
a
sneak it in
future.
again. Yeah, it like
Yeah.
protect it from your opponent's turn kind of.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. And yeah, to your point, Cam, you're right. You definitely need some utility. And how do you do that? I like Mark of the Goddess. I think this is a really good card. There's no concealed units that are being played here. And absolutely great way to get back against a Neil. Although I think somebody playing Neil against you is kind of bad, but maybe
Well,
not. I mean,
Neil punishes the decks that fill up their battlefield, so
sure, that's
this
true.
looks like a deck that could definitely do that.
But
Eight
we're on
allies
the 3x
and
battle.
uh,
Yeah. And we're on that 3x Battleseer plan again, so I'm curious to see how Battleseer plays out. I do like Quick Strike a lot, and obviously the 1x Hammer Knight is really good here also.
I think Battleseer is a great card if you're in the colors for it. The thing that hurts it is the colors that it is, right?
Right.
Because
I like
both
the
alert
figures in
and
the fog.
uh, quick strike are so good.
I do like figures in the fog here. I think this is a great reaction spell that doesn't see enough play, especially with playing a bunch of little guys like Salamander Monks and Shadow Spirits.
Yeah, I I
I think
mean,
it's a great
if
answer.
people are playing Stasis, people should be playing figures in the fog, right? Like I don't know that
Absolutely.
you should be playing either, but I've been interested in trying a couple figures in the fog and some stuff
Yep.
because it it just like wins the stupid creature stalemates.
Right.
If
It
I
does.
mean, you have to like get your opponent to attack or whatever, so maybe
Right.
it doesn't. Like it's very situational, but it wrecks them good if they if they
Absolutely.
swing first.
And yeah, I mean, I think obviously figures is really solid with Lightbringer as a good combo as well. But I think this deck has got a punishing enough you know spell board with Salamander Monk and Strengthen to put a lot of pressure on a board without ever playing any of the allies. So the fact that the allies can come down and be assists, even late round assists, can be really hard on an opponent. And I do think it's going to rely a lot on can you get multiple strengthens so that you can get value out of a monk and a monk spirit or a shadow spirit and a monk, something like that, so that you can get a couple activations of strength in each round. But if you can do that, I think that between Astria's exhaustibility and those effects, I think you're in a pretty good place. So I wish you the best of luck, man. I think I would love to see Astria do well because I do think that her main ability is very underrated. I just don't know if
Her
the full
Phoenix Born ability
battlefield.
is really good. The numbers are fine. Like the battlefield's small, and she doesn't have a 5. Like a lot of the ones you see have the 5 spellboard for battlefield.
Right.
Um, and her, like I said on the last stream, I think Mark of the Goddess is a fine card. It's like usually a deal 2 damage
Uh-huh.
to their second best guy.
Absolutely. So I'll be curious to see how it works out. I think that its potential, like you have Nature's Wrath, which is a good self clear for you. So I think you've got a good shell here. I'd just be curious to see how it actually plays out. And into a field of heralds, this is the kind of thing you want to be doing, to be honest, because you nullify Herald's Hunter's Mark if you just never play any of the big units, and you still get
Well,
big unit
he's got
value out of
he's
strength
got battle seers, but
and
yeah,
Hammer Knight.
right. He's got
But
4
those,
knights. There will be good targets for Herald, I think. But in
but the
general,
rest,
uh,
yeah,
I think the deck is cool.
yep. So let's move on to Crystal Skull's list. This is a new player, and I think he's using one of Red King's lists. One of the new players is using a Red King list. So
Well,
for that,
I read this list and I like this is a combo deck, right? Like this is
for sure,
and it
for
even
sure,
has the gates, so it goes
hmm
super big.
hmm
I don't know if you can actually ever pull it off, but it's cool if you do.
for sure. I think it's obviously like we're leveraging Immortal Commander and Standard Bearer to make all of our weenie units big. I think Mist Spirit and Time Hopper with Noah are really solid. You're deep on the Masked Wolf. I'm not convinced that you need to be, but
Well, this is an accelerate deck, right? Like
yeah,
so
absolutely. Which I
he
think is one of the best decks for. Um,
right. If Masked Wolf is going to be good, it's going to be in a good deck like this. I don't know that it is
Absolutely.
going to be good. Like I said, I don't know if you can actually pull it off, but I suppose the most you could do is for 3 dice you get 4 side actions, and
Right.
you get so that's 3 wolves and a time hopper and an attack, or 2 wolves, an immortal cannon, or a pump and attack.
Yeah.
Not that
I
that's
think
ever going
there's
to
a
happen because the accelerate, but you also get um just like you don't have to attack, so you can like masked wolf, uh something like one of the main action summons, and
mhm.
then like Well, you have to accelerate first, I guess. So you like accelerate, Masked Wolf, main action summon, Gates, other side action summon, and make like 5 guys.
Right.
Like, because the Gates is a side action, right? Like, or is it a main? Even if it's a main, you can still do a bunch of bonkers stuff
Absolutely.
because all your
So I
books are side actions.
and Cam, yeah, ways I agree. I think the Astray deck is cool. And Cam, you're right. I mean, if your opponent plays body inversion or like Dread Wraith into your body inversion, and you're playing Astria, they're probably dead. Um, but I don't think there's any Dread Wraiths in this tournament. Just a heads up on that. But yeah, so let's. I mean, I think this is the kind of thing that Noah is going to be good at
The
doing. It's
right,
whether or not you get. It's whether or not you get the combination correct. You know what I mean? Like
right.
it's like a master lock. You have to get the right combination to
This is
unlock
not
Noah.
like an easy deck for a new player to play, I don't think.
No,
Um,
I think it's going to be
but
very
it's very
challenging to get correct.
cool,
Hmm.
and like it's gonna live or die by drawing the card Accelerate, because this is too many side
Absolutely,
actions. You're just gonna end up having to pass and not do all your stuff some of the times if you don't draw the Accelerates.
absolutely. Because
Um,
when you look at it, there's only 4, 6, 9, 9, 10, 11 12 main actions in the whole deck. I mean, that's over 50% of the deck is sides. So it's definitely an
right, but
accelerate deck. Yeah.
like Miss Spirit counts as a bunch because it happens every turn. Um,
Sure, sure. I'm just talking about like just from a number of cards that actually have main action printed on their book, right, or on
right.
their to play. Because my experience has been with Noah has been exactly to your point, right? Like you run out of main actions, and so I've had a very difficult time balancing that main action side action balance with Noah to make the Masked Wolf and the Time Hopper work. Because I've
And
definitely tried that early on in testing with time.
And this deck
Uh,
has the thing that I was talking about. I don't know if it was last stream or the stream before. Like, I think Accelerate's very good with Meteor.
Absolutely,
Because you get to accelerate, fix your dice, and Meteor
absolutely.
all at the same time. And you get, if,
You still get a side action left, so
right,
you can
you get to
still play
make a
that.
2-1 in this deck usually. You get to, like, kill
Right.
everything and make a 2-1 after.
Right.
Um,
Yep. So those are probably good uses of dice. That is 4 dice, though. That's a
and
big
this
turn.
is exactly the kind of deck I thought Accelerate was going to be good in, where it's not like one specific combo
Hmm.
that you have to do. It's like there's many amalgamations of these side actions that if you have a good accelerate turn, it's very good.
Right.
Um,
Yep.
so
Yep.
we'll see.
So
This is going to be a fun one to watch.
I agree. I think this will be one that if it starts to make it to the top tables, we'll try to get on stream as well because I think it's got that sort of wow factor of gameplay that it can do. All right. So let's go to Leonard the Third here.
Do you think
He's
Noah
playing
is
a
the
Leo deck.
handsomest man?
He is pretty handsome.
He's just so
He,
dashing.
but you got to go with like Geralt's like old man like I know it's cold, but Geralt is like old man handsome too, right? So like I don't know, it's tough. Um, Everybody thinks Leo is the handsomest
Leo's
man.
trying so hard, and he's not even as good looking as Noah. I'm just
It's
putting
so
it out
funny.
there.
Fair enough. So we got a four book Noah here with Steadfast Guardian, Three Eyed Owl, Salamander Monk, and Frostback Bear on a spellboard of 3 and a one of Magic Siphon. So this is another one of these. What are my answers? First 5 answers, and what is my spellboard going to be set up as on
Right.
matchup dependency?
Which is interesting
Um,
because the last one we saw, it was kind of here's my suite of very similar guys, right? Like,
mhm,
here's how I want to be spending my dice, essentially. In this mode, the 5 books, well, 4 books and a magic siphon are wildly different, right? Like,
yeah, they do.
he
They
could
all do very different things.
he can be like Frostback Bear Monk Guardian in the creatures matchup. He can be like Magic Siphon Frostback Bear Owl in the control matchups.
Yep,
Like his books have wildly different functions, and so he can be set up to be like a mill race deck. He can be set up to be a creature battle deck.
absolutely.
Like it's interesting
And
to
and
me.
and Anguish is easily one of the best burn spells in the game, right? So
Uh, Anguish is
it,
good when you're already ahead, and Leo specifically, obviously it's his card, so it's meant to be that way. But Leo, with the Finch and with the Owl, can get to the point where it is very good. Like you are ahead and you're going to get the damage out of it, but it's still opponent decision. So you it is impossible for you to get the best thing for you out of it at any time,
Mhm.
except when you're going to win.
Yeah, so what we do see here is a Archosaurus mount, two of. I'm sure that's a pretty common first five choice. Like you just Raptor Herder Archosaurus, and um, the only thing that's tricky about Archosaurus and Raptor Herder is you really are wide open to if your opponent can kill the Herder because the Archosaurus is a main inside to play, so you can't play the ally and summon the mount in the same round.
Right. I don't think
Um,
it's a first five. It's like a conditional first five, right? Like I'm sure
right,
there's a package where he plays it in round one, but
right.
it's also
I'm sure
like a
there's
fine card to draw later.
I'm sure the Sonic Swordsman Root Armor is a common package choice as well here because it's a one of on both of those. Also, I do like the close combat, especially with Archosaurus, as a way of dealing with your opponents, like Root Armored Knights and things. Can
Yeah,
just
the
put a lot
close
of pressure.
combat so the close combat has three good targets and then Frostback Bear. So it's like always a 2 damage spell almost.
Right.
Um, it's still a good card, and like you said, it's a one of, so it's like could be part of like an
It
Archosaurus
seems like it's
start.
like a tech with Archosaurus. Yeah, I think it's an Archosaurus
Um,
tech start.
but this deck is all over the place.
Yep.
Because it's like
Yep.
got some aggressive stuff. It's got like this alternate mode where it can just like owl you and magic siphon you and kneel you.
Right.
So it'll just be interesting to see how consistent it is at
Right.
doing those things because like if you go into your match assuming control or whatever, so you start magic siphon and owl, but then you like draw the close combat and you draw the nature's wraths and you draw like the sonic swordsman, like all these aggressive pieces, and don't draw your
It
kneels and don't draw your control pieces, like are you on plan?
right. That's a good question, and I don't know.
Right.
I mean,
And obviously any game you start with five demonic tutors, most of your plan you get to set up, but the additional draws I could see maybe going poorly. But because like if you start owl, uh I don't know, like owl magic siphon frostback bear, I guess if you start frostback bear, massive growth's always going to be okay.
right.
But I can just see board states of this deck where the massive growth is kind of dead,
What's really
or
interesting is
reverse that Daniil is kind of dead.
you can massive growth the Finch, and it's not a unit your opponent really wants to block, right? Because they risk getting milled for two. So that is kind of an interesting sort of cheeky play with the Finch as well, potentially. Um, but I don't know how good that is. I guess it's just it is one of those
I
things that
think
is
this deck's
out
really
there.
cool, and it has a lot of powerful cards in it. Right. One
Right.
thing that I think is interesting is that this is our I think our first double divine dice that doesn't have meteors in it.
Yes. Yep.
Though meteor is obviously very good against him.
Right. Yep.
The only thing it doesn't kill is Archosaur or Sonic.
Hmm.
Um, but it also like is good against the Archosaurus pre spell.
Absolutely. Yeah, if you could time excuse me, if you can time your meteor correctly, you're in really a good place to be able to drop
Right.
Archosaurus in.
But
So I mean, it's
this is
just
a cool deck, and like I've been playing Leo a little bit recently on stream, and I think he's cool because obviously I've been hooked on the like many books strategy, and his Phoenixborn is like almost a book.
yep.
Um,
So let's
though in
let's
a
move on.
field of a million heralds, the unit guard is less important.
Yeah, that's true. So let's move on to Matt Bowers. Obviously, Matt is a master at deck building and a very solid player, if not one of the best players in Ashes. And we've got a Coal Abundance chant, deck here. We got some Shadow Spirits and Frostback Bears, one Hammer Knight, two Shadow Guards, which is interesting, three Raptor Herders, and then just like 3x Fester gates. Definitely using the gates probably on all of those great, spellboard cards here. The Mist Typhoons, 100 Blades are just good sweepers. One of two Shadows for big unit removal, and a couple of Particle Shields looks like to
Right.
maybe protect.
So the biggest thing that jumps out at me for this deck is that this is not an abundance win con deck,
No.
like you see so many cold decks are that have just the full set of abundance. Um, This is just like an abundance is 2 slashes deck.
Right.
And so he's trying to win with Frostback Bear and Chant of Revenge and like what a Hammer Knight or Hurt or whatever he's got.
Hmm.
Um, and use the coal as like a removal tool, right? And I
Right.
suppose like take coal goes to the face also when there's no dudes in play.
Right.
Um, but it's interesting. You know, most of the coal decks you see are auto 3 of abundance, and this one is just the single abundance because Matt obviously thinks you don't need more than 2 additional slashes.
He's also
Uh,
deep on illusion here with 5 dice dedicated to illusion. And I
yeah,
think he's got the right illusion cards. Like when we talk about good illusion
you
cards,
kind of need that many when you have that he's got the full set of Shadow Spirit books. So like
right?
if he wants to make more than 1/2/1 in a turn, the additional wolves are good.
Yep, yep. He's definitely he might be heavy on meditation with this deck with the cost of Shadow
Oh,
Spirit, but
he's got 3 Call Upon the Realms.
that's true. That's true. So he's definitely planning to use Call Upon the Realms to fix his dice for his needs, which is important. So, I think this is a very solid list of a bunch of really good cards. So, I would expect this to do very well, not only because of Matt, but just also because of the cards that are
Yeah,
put
it's
out here.
interesting. I am we had the 1 Cole in the last tournament, is that right?
Right.
I'm interested to see what Cole can do because I I know that he's kind of like I think he's awesome, but he's kind of like just never hit the mark for me. Um, so we'll see if this like more traditional win condition type deck is uh, strong. I mean, obviously Frostback Bear is good.
Right. And I think Chant is good too. So I think he's got ways to deal damage here. And this Cold Slash is not something to be scoffed at, and Matt will leverage that to the fullest potential, I'm sure. So we'll see how it works. So let's talk about Mike Hankowski's deck, and then I think we'll probably have to cut
Yeah,
on
for
for tonight. Sorry, Carl, we're not going to get to your deck tonight, but
you can see it right there.
yep, you
It's
can.
just at the
But
bottom of the screen.
but
Um,
Mike is Mike is not a new player. I'm pretty sure he's been around for a while. But we've got a double augury, memorialized Lightbringer, and three-eyed owl as the ready spells here. So none of the normal like what we'd expect to see from Noah. So this is a deck that to me is going heavy on like Noah's ability to seal
this
a
deck is
book.
gonna take 2 hours to win every match.
It looks that way. It does look that way.
Way to vote for
Uh,
no time limits, guys. I'm I'm putting
it,
this
it
all
does
on
look.
you, chat.
Uh, I I I do think that it's going to be a really grindy deck to play against,
So
and
so this deck has a couple interesting things. Like it's essentially a mill deck to start,
right,
where it's got the owl, Lightbringer's just a control piece, and it's got memorialize,
right.
um, and double augury. So I don't know if
The
he's just
augury
gonna
is
recur the kneel or if he's gonna
well, and
recur.
the augury is really good for grabbing your Sonic Swordsman, so you don't have to first five it, right? So, um,
Yeah,
but
he's got a
yeah,
master
I guess
vampire you can get too. Does he have another 3 drop? I don't know.
he's got a
Like this is like a
vampire
deck
and
where
Swordsman.
he's gonna put something on the bottom with memorialize and then augury for it, and like it's just gonna be kneel 4 times in the game or whatever,
But it can't.
probably.
You can't. Yeah, you can only augury though for Neil twice, right? Because it's a 2-cost spell. So unless you have some way to add tokens
Oh,
back to augury.
you can memorialize the augury and augury
Oh,
for
that's true.
augury.
That's true. That's interesting.
Like
I hadn't considered that.
this is as grindy as it gets.
I hadn't considered the augury off of Memorialize. That's kind of brutal. But
So
okay. Yeah,
because
that's
so
true.
you use the yeah, it's I guess that doesn't actually get you additional deals because augury costs 2,
Right.
but you get additional auguries. I don't know.
Yeah.
This
I'll
this
be
deck
curious to see how this
is
deck looks in
wild.
round. Yeah,
Like
that's a good answer for it. I'll be curious to see how it goes because I think that
I think if this deck like it seems like this is a deck that's gonna win by decking your opponent, but not because you actively milled them, because you put cards on the bottom of your pile. Like
Yeah, it's sort
like
of
deck
what
them through
Waves is
normal
doing.
drawing.
Right, it's sort of what Waves did with the Stallions, right? In your round one of season one, where he was just using the
But
Stallions torrent to get more cards than you or whatever. So,
it does have an
um,
exhortation. So like the double augury allows him to assemble all these combos, right? Like he
right,
like kneels you out, or like he has an exhortation that he could play potentially a couple times a game and get in for some big damage. Um,
absolutely.
I don't know. It's this, like I said, this deck's wild, and I like would like to see it in action, but hopefully we'll get to cover one.
Yep, yep. And so we're gonna pause here because I'm gonna go jump over to Ashteki. So I'm gonna say goodnight to everybody for now. In case you're not here when I get done, I will jump back into voice chat once my match is done. Neil's gonna commentate, and I'm pretty sure that Carl is gonna jump in here. He didn't commit for sure, so he may not make it.
Well, I hope he shows up. If not, you guys will just have to deal with me.
Yep,
Uh,
yep. Neil will get to talk to you about the the whole thing, but. And then I will be back after the match is over just to kind of talk a little bit about how the match went, and then we'll go from there. But we will try to finish up some deck summary on Tuesday of next week. So if you want us to get, you want to see the rest of the decks and us talk about the rest of the decks, they'll be there by Tuesday of next week. Obviously, we'll be in round two by then. So for many of you that are participants in the season, you'll probably have already seen some of these decks that we haven't covered in person. So I'll be curious to get your feedback on maybe things that we're missing if we get to that point or whatever it may be. But yeah. So thanks for everybody for the conversation. Thanks for submitting deck lists, participating in season two. Again, we just can't thank you enough for that. And I will be back in hopefully about an hour. My Ashteki games lately have been going a million
yeah.
hours, so I hope that doesn't happen with us tonight, Waves.
Before you go,
Um,
let's see if I can figure out how to spectate. Cause
yeah, I
there's
gotta,
just a
I gotta,
watch button. Okay.
yeah, I gotta load up Ashteki still.
All right.
So,
All right. I'm
um,
in. Don't worry about it. Go play your game. Waves is waiting.
all right, Waves, I'm coming for you, man. um, all right, I'm gonna close chat so that way you guys can talk about the match in chat, and I don't see any
He's
feedback. So
100% he's cheating, Waves.
I am not. I promise. So, all right, we'll talk to you later, guys. So we have some time. Do we want to jump back to the deck list for a little bit for any of those people that are still here? We got
Yeah.
20 minutes. We can
Leonard
get
was
probably a
upset
couple
that
more
he
decks in.
missed his
Leonard,
us
I'm
talking
sorry,
about his
man.
Leo deck because he didn't show up until right after you started the.
Dude, I'm sorry. It's we did talk about it. We think there's a lot of interesting things there. So we're excited to see how you do with it. Just
Yeah,
watch the
I
video
can.
on demand. It'll be there, and it'll be on this video will be on YouTube. Basically, I'm gonna start moving the live streams over to YouTube almost right away for folks that miss the live stream, just to be able to watch it on demand because they go away after 7 days on our Twitch channel. So, um, and then I will edit out the the match, the Ashteki match, so that it's its own separate video for YouTube as well. But yeah, I mean, let's jump into Carl's deck here. Let's talk about it if you're ready.
Okay. Yeah, so we're back to the deck list. Here's some more heralds. He's got a stupid haircut, but he's awesome. Uh,
What is the glowing in Herald's of Hair? I just want to know what that is. Like, does he like get some like bioluminescence from the
look,
um
he's just one of those hipsters. He got a fade, and they colored part of it blue. Like
Yeah, Cam, I think so. It's gel. Leonard says it's
he
gel. I
shops at
think it's
Hot Topic.
bioluminescence. I think he went down to the coral, like went scuba diving in the coral, found some bioluminescence and like streaked it in his hair. But Cam says with open deck list, could you do sideboards for a pregame modification to the single game? Cam, that's a really interesting question.
So I agree. I think that's like assuming open deck lists. I mean, even not open deck lists, just like essentially as part of first five decisions, you have some number of cards you can interchange. But this is another thing where that sounds cool, but unless it's going to be something that Plaid Hat actually does, like for the most part, you know, we want to stick with whatever Nick and those guys say. I know that we
right.
like voted for the no time limits in this one, um, but we still have like their chain requests and all that stuff. Like, so I would pitch that to Nick, um, and just see what they say. Like, it sounds like a cool idea to me.
Yeah, I think it's a cool idea because it does give you room for some niche cards, right?
The
It does give you
it the only issue it like for gameplay it's very cool. For tournament organizing, it's kind of a nightmare.
yes.
Um, because it takes time, so we have to uh a lot like okay, so your first 5 decisions you have X amount of time to do your sideboarding and then your first 5 decisions, which I'm
Yeah,
sure they
Leonard.
already have that first 5 decision thing timed, or maybe that's part of the whole match. But uh, and then you have to have like a way to deck check it, um,
Absolutely.
which I'll tell you from being a Magic judge for a long time, deck checks are awful.
They
Even
are.
in Magic, where like the deck check is very simple, uh, it just sucks. And
Yeah.
I guess maybe the deck checks are even simpler in this game.
Well, they're definitely smaller. That would help, right? Because it's not a 60 card. But
Right. That I mean that's the biggest
Leonard
reason. I don't know.
Leonard says he
It's a
thinks
really
sideboard
cool
and
idea.
ashes. Yeah, Leonard says he thinks sideboard and ashes would be really interesting. So many cards that just don't make the cut because they're too niche suddenly become way more playable. And that's the huge upside to it, Leonard. There is a downside to it that
Right.
cards that are
And
currently playable become unplayable if they're hard counters, right? If those niche cards are hard counters, then all of a sudden we make cards that are playable unplayable. So
right.
it would
And what Leonard just said is what I was going to say is that the opinion from some folks is that the first 5 provides that element, and it really does. You know,
yeah,
it it essentially puts your sideboarding into your deck building component, like before you go to
correct.
the tournament, because
Yeah,
you have the option to have those cards in your pile, and even if like we were talking about the dispel, it's the perfect example. I would rather have the one of dispel uh, in my list
and have
if
it
it
be dead.
then and have it be dead in all the matchups that I draw it in, but still have the option to first 5 for it, because the number of games that you want it and you're going to first 5 it for is 100%. You always will do it.
Right.
The number of games that you draw it and actually lose a significant board position because you drew it and it was dead is very, very small.
Agreed.
And so the game kind of like exactly what Leonard said. The first 5 essentially already takes that element, but
Right.
the other thing he said is right too. Like you could be more liberal with cards like that, like cards that you
Absolutely.
would never think you would play because they're super super niche. You could be more liberal with in your like 5 or 10 card sideboard or whatever if that was a thing.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. And that's just just something that I think we just have to look at um, the game as a whole and say, is this the the best, like, is this the best tournament format that we can provide? And right now, what we will do is follow Plaid Hat's lead, and because we don't have a lead from Plaid Hat right now, which is totally understandable, I don't want to put any pressure on them to release OP rules before they're ready. We get to sort of be a testing bed for some of the things that they want to see tested, like the chain list. Obviously, the time limit thing is not going to be a thing in real tournaments, guys. So, like, you go sit down at Gen Con, you better have a deck that can win in an hour. If you don't, it's you're probably going to lose on sudden death rules. So at some point, we will reincorporate that into this game, just to be fair, into our tournaments. And the only reason is because I want us to be able to mirror the experience you would get at Gen Con, because this is a great testing bed before you'd ever go to a big tournament. Right? Before you'd ever go to Gen Con or PAX Unplugged or Origins, you can play in Shufflebus tournaments and test decks. And you can see how the meta evolves there and give you an idea of how the meta will probably play out to a certain degree at a live tournament as well. That will not be true if we don't have time limits, right? If we don't have time limits, there are possibilities that decks could exist that could win the tournament that will never win in an hour. And that is just the way it is. But that deck will never show up at Gen Con or never show up at Origins or never show up at PAX Unplugged, right? Because it couldn't win that tournament. It couldn't be there. So, you know, I'm fine with it for right now because we don't have the official rules. But once we have official OP rules, our tournament structure will follow official OP rules. Just know that out of the gate. So I'm sorry if that's I know that's an opinionated topic because we had a bunch of people that wanted no time limits and voted for it for this season. But once Plat Hat gives us an official, here you go, that's what we're going to follow. And that's because we are going to create, in my opinion, one of the better, like one of the better online tournament scenes. Not, I mean, I'm taking nothing away from Ashteki, taking nothing away from AIL. I'm saying that our goal is to create a competitive tournament scene, a tournament scene where you pick a deck and you have to play it all the way through a tournament is something that you don't have to do in Ashteki and you don't have to do in AIL. And those tournaments are really fun and they're great tournaments for that kind of thing. But we wanted to do something very different and create a real tournament competitive scene. Um, yeah, I agree with that, Cam, for sure. I also think that they work extremely well in this situation because we all have busy schedules, right? And so our timing, like going, okay, like I'm going to play a match tomorrow night for season one, and that's going to be at 7:30.
Yeah.
Like
I
I
mean,
want to be able to tell my spouse that I'm going to be done at 8:30 and help the kids help her get the kids down for bed,
in
right?
general, you
After that,
just like there's just logistics of the real world that play into these things,
right?
and we've been
Absolutely,
spoiled. Like, I say this lightly. I'm sure this is gonna get me banned by YouTube or some dumb thing. We've been spoiled by the like digital only COVID scene. I think where for me anyway, because of the state of the world right now, even though we can't go play in our local stores, I've actually met and played with more people online digitally than I would have going to my own store or going to somebody else's store, right? Like it's
absolutely,
been great
yeah,
for that, for meeting people and playing digitally. Ultimately, like it won't always be like that, and I mean, maybe it will. I hope it isn't because I want the game to do well, and we need the game to grow to where it can have a tournament you would want to travel for,
absolutely. I mean,
even if it's
I'm
just
really
like a
hope.
couple hours to like your closest big hub of Kansas City or Chicago or whatever.
Right.
Um, but if we
I
had
mean, I'm
like a
really
Gen
hoping that
Con,
I'm really hoping when Team Covenant opens up, I'll make the 5.5 hour drive to Tulsa to play Ashes in one of their events. Like I will, because I think it'll be an awesome time, right? Like, but obviously that would have been a lot easier with Neil still around because then he and I could split, like we'd split the drive time and make it easier. But I'll still make that trip solo if I have to
but
because I
yeah,
for
and
one,
so any of these real world tournaments in at Covenant or at any of the big things or even just wherever, like you go to your local hobby shop on a Thursday night, like you don't want to play a game more than 50 minutes, right? Like you want to have a time
no,
limit so you can play some additional games and like
right,
actually have a real thing. And that's what the OP kit's going to do. They're going to set up their rules and that's what it's going to be.
yep,
And and for all I know, because I don't have the insider information, uh, maybe it won't be a fixed deck thing. Maybe even in their OP kits there'll be like you can play whatever deck you want in any round. Um, I hope it's not like that because if it's like that, then you go to a tournament, you have like 10 decks, and you like scout all your opponents the round before.
absolutely.
But uh,
Cam, if you make the trip from Canada, I'll meet you, bud. I promise. Wherever that is, if it's Gen Con, I'll meet you. I'm trying to convince my wife to let me go to Gen Con in September because it sounds like it's still on right now. So
but
we'll see. It's kind of an awkward time, but yeah. So let's. I think we can get Carl's deck in. We chatted about tournaments for a little while here, but let's talk about Carl's deck.
so I
That way
think
we get
does Carl have
into it.
the exact same like ready spells as that previous one we talked about?
He's
Uh,
Magic Siphon, 3x Magic Siphon, 1x
so
Frost
it's
Vector, Gilder
really similar
Lightbringer.
to the Leonard deck.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really similar in terms of
well, just
the
this
red
ready
spell.
spell kit.
Right.
He has
I think
Lightbringer
Carl has a
instead
lot
of
more allies, right, than Leonard.
right. I'm
Yeah.
just talking about this setup because this when we talked about the Leo deck, I was talking about how it has like multi-mode setup where like
Hmm.
it can be real aggressive or it can be real controlly just with its like spell board. Um, so it has the magic siphons and the three-eyed owl uh, as like a mill race tool. It
Sure.
has Lightbringer Owl as like a control thing. It has Frostback Gilder as an aggressive like creature battle setup.
Hmm.
Um, so it's going to be real modal based on opponents.
Absolutely.
And we've seen that a couple times in the previous list we talked about if you were here for earlier. Um,
Yeah, I mean, Carl even mentioned on deck building chat today that the list he's playing in this season really doesn't have a fixed first five. Like he is 100% reacting to opponent dice
Which
spread
is what
and
you should
and
do
speed.
with your open deck list.
Absolutely.
Um,
So he's really got a toolbox of sorts that allows him to pick what he thinks is going to be best based on a first five call. And I think that's what you have to get to as a competitive player in this game. I'm certainly not there yet, right? I'm still working through like some of those things. I think I can make some reasonable knowledgeable guesses, but um, I still make that call wrong sometimes. Like I could have just totally missed tonight against Waves on that first five two shadows, right? But ultimately, I made the right call there. So it's one of those things where I still have a lot to learn in that respect, and I think that just comes from playing a bunch of games. But Carl certainly is a very talented player. He's obviously season one champion. I would expect this deck to do very well, just from the looks of things. I think it's well suited to.
it doesn't have
Um,
it doesn't have anything extremely powerful in it, right? It has like the
well,
combination
I
of
mean,
swordsman and herald ability, but it's
right,
it's just
Swordsman
it's
Herald.
it's it's like what I talk about a lot, where it's like all cards that you're never sad about drawing. Like it's just like all good cards.
Yeah, it's just a good stuff deck, right? Like we just call this a good stuff deck, right? Like there's just good stuff everywhere you look in it. I mean, the golden veils are nice for protection. The consumed soul, we've already talked about that a few times earlier in the show. Shepherd just getting back whatever toolbox ally you need back. Most likely that's swordsman, but I'm sure there are situations where that turns into, a hollow or a string mage. There's just lots of options there. So let's go ahead and move on. We can probably get problems deck in here tonight as well, and then we'll call it good for the stream. So. Um, Problem's got another herald list here. This time we're seeing the Salamander Monk, Squall
How many
Stallion, and
heralds
the
is this?
Time
Is this the
Hopper.
third herald or the fourth herald? I'm gonna go back and
Uh,
look.
yeah, that's a good question. I'm looking now. It's fourth herald. There's
Right.
five, so
There's
we,
so
we're
many
almost done.
heralds.
We're almost done covering heralds. Spoiler: I'm the other herald.
But Herald is good. I
Yeah,
don't think there's a problem with there being five heralds. So this deck is really similar to the Jericho deck we were talking about before, the Time
right.
Hoppers deck. It has Squall Stallions instead of the Creepers.
It's Squall Stallions and Time Hoppers with Accelerate. All of those things are pretty solid. It's got the 3x stasis, which I think is this is the kind of deck that will probably make use of stasis pretty well as an aggressive tool to open
Yeah,
up
we'll
a
see. I
battlefield.
mean, this is definitely an aggressive shell, right?
Right,
Like Time Hopper is an aggressive card, and
right.
uh, it seems like in this deck, with the explosive growth, with the Huntmaster, I'm kind of surprised that this deck doesn't contain the standard bearers.
I was a
But
little shocked to see that too over with the
but
Huntmaster
obviously
instead.
he felt that like he wanted to go deeper into sympathy rather than deeper into time,
I think that's
because
probably for the explosive growth play and the crescendo plays. But I'm with you. I kind of was surprised not to see the standard bearer in this list as well. Three allies is a
I
really
mean
interesting.
you definitely can't you definitely like on his current dice spread he couldn't support what he's doing and standard bearer, because
No,
he's got three turtles, he's got three time opera books, and he's
right,
got accelerate, and he's got flash strike. So most times I guess he's under the assumption that he's going to uh, make two rabbits and a flash strike, or
right,
an accelerate and two rabbits. Um,
right.
so you with his current dice spread you wouldn't be able to uh, handle that. I guess he's got stasis too. So if he's gonna play stasis, he's gonna make two rabbits and so it's gonna be like two rabbits plus X other time card are is his like rounds.
Right.
And he needs a horse for the monk,
Mhm.
and a horse for the stallion, and a horse for the explosive growth, and a horse for the crescendo. So that's about the same, I guess.
Yeah, Leonard, I agree. I think we're in on the same page. I think that this deck would just benefit immensely from a standard
Yeah,
variant, but
I think
or
I
two.
mean obviously he values the crescendo more than the additional uh and he needs it from Huntmaster. So he just values the sympathy cards more than the time cards, which is fine. Like I don't know what's right because Huntmaster's a good card too. Um,
I think you're gonna have a hard time getting Squall Stallion's Torrent to work really well because the only card draw he has is the Accelerate as well.
well,
So
I mean,
I mean, the
he
Stallion draws the card when you summon the Stallion, of course.
and
So
and Torrent isn't that big a deal in this deck because of the time hoppers and the explosive
sure,
growth.
sure,
Like he'll do it
that's true.
when it's opportune, but most of the time he's just gonna like I'm gonna make some rabbits and I'm gonna put some counters on my horse, right? Like
Right,
I'm gonna play explosive growth and my horse is gonna be a giant. That it's
right.
it's more about the other text of horse than it is about the actual torrent. But obviously torrent is a thing he could do. Um, interesting, he's on one consume soul,
Right.
um, which
I don't think it's
which means he
necessarily
either
bad.
first fives it and he's always an 18 life Phoenix born, or he doesn't first five it and he's usually a 16 life Phoenix born.
Right. And I'll be honest, I've played a lot of Herald, and waffle a lot on whether it's a single consume soul or a double consume soul, and I very rarely play three anymore. I played a lot of three consume souls early just to create the consistency, and there are just times when you just stuck with it in hand and you don't want to spend the dice to play it.
Right, because
So
the card's only actually good when you get to double mark.
right,
It like the two life is fine,
right.
but the actual power of the card is like you mark something, you attack and kill it, play your consume soul, and then next turn you get to mark something else. Like
And if your opponent's just playing a bunch of weenies, like if you're just up against a deck that's playing, Shadow Spirits and Mist Spirits or something, or Salamander Monks or whatever, like the mark is literally meaningless in those matchups. Like it does nothing. So like the Consume Soul kind of does very little. It's not nothing, but it loses half of its power, maybe even two-thirds of its
so
power when we really think about it. So,
overall,
but yeah.
I'm really interested in this deck because I guess what I said about the torrent is mostly true. He does have accelerate torrent,
Mhm.
which can get pretty big. Uh,
So what I see is like accelerate into explosive growth and torrent, and all of a sudden your stallions are just monsters, right? And if you could still stasis in that,
it works
um,
like you want it to waves where like you just do double damage right away. Like if I mark your hammer knight or whatever and attack it with a light swordsman, the light swordsman just kills it and doesn't
right,
take damage back.
right,
Um,
because what happens is that as soon as you apply the damage, and the quick strike damage gets applied first before any counter damage would be
so
applied
yeah,
because of the quick strike,
the flash
it gets
strike plus
doubled.
the waves brings up a good point here. Like the flash strike and the mark like is pretty strong.
I agree.
Like
I think this is a good use of time in Herald. Like we haven't seen Herald with time yet, right? This I think is the only Herald with time in it.
this is only the
Yeah.
second deck list that has time in it, right? Of all the
No,
decks we've talked about.
third, because we had Josh's deck that had time in it, and Crystal Skull had time. The Noah deck, and then Problem now has time. So this is the third time deck, and this
Oh right, we had the accelerate combo deck was the one I was forgetting.
so yeah, waves. I mean, one hopper attacking with Flash Strike does kill a knight for sure. If it's a what I think you're really looking at is the opportunity for um, the Huntmaster or a pumped up Squall Stallion, even with one status token on it, to be able to, or two status tokens on it, excuse me, to be able to take out a Root Armored Knight. That's one thing that Flash Strike does there.
Right. The flash strike
Because,
just like makes all your combat great. Like if flash strike I think is a reason to play Hopper. Like if Hopper is going to be good, it's going to one of the reasons is going to be flash strike
agreed.
because it makes your combats so profitable.
Hmm.
Um
I
like it
agree.
just even
I
not just the rabbit, but like the rabbit making something else. Like imagine if you had, like a tutu, like a lion or something
yeah,
and you
I
just
think
like attack and give it first strike, like oh barf.
this deck is going to be very strong. I think it's got a
Well,
lot of opportunity, but I think
this
it's
this deck is like so focused, right? Like it does one thing.
yep.
So
And if your opponent can stop
if
it,
that one thing it does is good against you, it's gonna do that thing.
absolutely.
This deck is
Yep.
not a deck of answers. It's all proactive stuff.
And
It's
and
just
so
it's
really the
on its
question is,
plan, and if that plan is good, it's gonna win, and if that plan is not good, it's not gonna win.
agreed. I agree completely with that statement. So, all right. Well, I mean, I think we managed to get a couple hours in. I hope everybody enjoyed the stream tonight. We will be back on Tuesday to finish up the deck list. I think we're about halfway through at this point. Um, Obviously, for all of you that are playing in the tournament, good luck in your round one. I think I mentioned that earlier, but since I'm back on stream, I'll just say it
Yeah,
again for anybody new that's
we're at
joined us.
12 of 25,
Yeah,
almost
12, so
exactly halfway.
almost exactly half. Yeah, so um, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of really cool things being shown here. Very different takes on a lot of similar archetypes happening so far. There's not really a good burn deck in this tournament right now. And we don't have a true mill. Obviously, Stefanos wanted to sit out this round. I totally
Right.
respect that.
A couple of decks like we talked about. Well, there's a Leo deck, and one of the things that Leonard was talking about and Cam while we were watching you play was that Leo has just always has the backdoor to win with Mill because of Finch.
Right, right. It just
Um,
has a pivot, and if you look at
and
Carl's deck,
a
he's kind
lot
of
of
got a
the
pivot as
right,
well.
and a lot of the what looks like first fives, like there's some magic siphons and owls and stuff that put you on like the ability to deck race.
Right.
And so
Agreed.
while they're not like Stefanos's
Proactive mill plan.
straight up like just mill control plan, they do have that element. And as we move forward into more and more competitive metas, I hope we should run into more situations like that where because you're playing the same deck through the whole tournament, uh, there'll be certain packages that are good that you'll see among like different decks,
Hmm.
which honestly, like I said, we've already seen because we've seen several decks that have, even though they have a 3 spell board, have like the 5 ready spell option
Right.
package because you want to be versatile, you want to be ready for the things your opponents are going to be doing because this is the deck that you're going to ride the whole
Right.
way.
Absolutely. Yep. So, a couple of things we're discussing for format, and we'd love your guys' feedback on is kind of on Tuesday nights, going alternate. So instead of playing Ashes every Tuesday, we would also play some other games on Tuesday nights since we are still a variety channel. We've just been really honed in on Ashes a lot lately. And obviously, through tournament season, we're going to do as much as we can to put as many games on stream as possible. So, know that that's still our plan. It's just up to people to volunteer that time. So, if you would like to play your match on stream and schedule it that way, just reach out to myself or Neil. Let me know. But otherwise, once we get out of tournament season again, most likely we'll probably do a little bit of Marvel Champions play. We might do a little FAB, Flesh and Blood. We're also um, kind of looking at there's a new game coming out, Vampire the Masquerade Rivals, coming out from Renegade. So we want to play that a few times and see if it floats our tickles our fancy or floats our boat or whatever you want to call it. And then, obviously there's just games that come out from time to time that we might want to explore that aren't in the card game realm. But we'll keep those things
Yeah,
open for
I backed the Kickstarter for the X-Men
United.
Marvel United today.
And honestly, if we get some of those games that have allow for more than two players, we would be happy to have any of our viewers, that want to participate with us in something like that on. So if you want to play 4-player co-op champions, um, yeah, it's the new Simon title, Leonard. It's
Yeah,
Marvel United.
I backed the Marvel United like full deal for the first set, and it all came a couple weeks ago when Jesse was here. We played it. It's like a simple game, but it's fun, and
Yep.
it has 1,000 awesome miniatures. And
I think the best part about it is just the gateway aspect of it, right? Like the
right,
ability that you can share it with non-gamer friends on Thanksgiving dinner, right? And it'll
right,
be fun.
it's easy, and Jesse and I were like a little turned off to it because of how easy the first mission was, but I played it with my family um 2 weekends ago or last weekend, I don't remember. And we played like the Infinity Gauntlet thing and we lost bad. Like
Okay. Well,
It
we barely
it
beat Ronan, remember? Like,
right,
if it wouldn't have been
just on
for
the
playing the one hero.
the Kickstarter exclusive Adam Warlock with his OP deck. Uh,
Yeah. Well, otherwise, Ronan would have
Otherwise, Ronan
beat
would have
our
beat
ass
us too.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So, all right.
it's cool. I don't
So
know.
we're definitely put some of that stuff on stream, especially once Neil gets his physical back set up.
Yeah,
I am
Christ.
ready to go.
Amazon.
But other than that, we will try some webcam games coming up whenever Neil is finally set up and see how that goes. I'm not holding out a lot of hope for Ashes because it just has some wonky interactions, like cards like Fade Away, for example, Hunter's Mark. All those things sort of make for um, weird interactions on webcam that you can't really account for.
We both have a full set. We
But
can do it.
yeah, well, we both have full sets. But if you're playing Fade Away and I'm playing Fade Away, where do you get it from? See what I'm saying? But one of the things we're going to be doing on Ashes Thursday, though, Thursday will always be dedicated to remain our Ashes night as we move forward. And on Ashes Thursday, Neil and I are going to work really hard to start building and testing a gauntlet of competitive lists. And then each of us will spend some time brewing decks to fight into that competitive um, space. So you'll see some of these lists that we are interested in sort of get played there and see how they go. Especially as we get results from more tournaments, we'll be able to build a more robust gauntlet and use that as a sort of a springboard tool. And then for all of you that are following along with us, you'll have the opportunity to see how breweries work against some of these competitive lists from a pure competitive perspective. So we're going to really just stay honed in on the competitive side of Ashes as much as possible. It's a challenge sometimes, but if you've got a list that you think is competitive and you want us to take a look at it or play it on stream one night, don't hesitate to shoot me over a DM. Either Neil or I will be happy to pilot that list and throw it into the gauntlet. So, and just see how it emerges. So that'll be, I mean, that's a pretty time consuming process. So from that side, like, I think there'll be a lot of Thursdays where you're seeing a very similar list just played against a variety of different lists just to see how it does and evolve over time. And Neil has been sort of doing that with his Aerodel list over the last 3 or 4 weeks on stream. If you've been watching him, certainly that was the inspiration for my Ashteki match tonight, was playing a 4-book Aerodel because I just thought it was good, and it turned out to be. But bottom line is that we'll see those kinds of things sort of develop and build some archetypes off of that, and use those as sort of sounding board, especially as new cards start to hit later this year. We'll have the opportunity to really just gauge new cards and new deck ideas directly against known value lists. That's sort of the plan. Shorten that test time and make it easier for people to see what are potentially good answers. And I don't think that means that we'll find all the answers because we just can't play enough games to do that. But it'll at least, I think you'll find at least we'll find the top, 15% of decks, 10% of decks, something like that. Anything else to add, Neil, before we sign off tonight?
No, I hope everybody has fun in the tournament. Thanks everyone for signing up. And
yep, yeah, we super appreciate that. Of course, everybody that follows us, we love you guys. Everybody that subs to us, we love you guys even more. And just keep on the lookout for lots of vids to come up on YouTube. The gauntlet to make Vicky work. Scratch that. Not enough time. Yeah, Cam. No. I didn't say I wanted to play a frustrating experience. I want to play good decks, and poor Vicky. I want her to be good. I do, because I love her art. I think she's really cool looking, and she's an illusion PB at heart, and I love illusion cards in this game. But illusion needs some tools. It's just and I'm sure Matt is going to prove me completely wrong.
Even if illusion gets tools, Vicky will still be bad because she has no text.
Yes, her. It's just you might as well play a blank Phoenixborn. And that's fine. I mean, that's okay. Like, Copycat is fine.
No, it's not.
Fine-ish.
No, if you put Copycat in your deck, you're playing with a blank Phoenixborn and 3 blank cards in your pile. Like it's
not, I won off a Copycat, man. So don't.
It could have been anything.
Well, I'm just saying. Like, the guy tried to transfer onto a Master Growth Bear to kill me, and I just copied the transfer and put the exhausted token back on his bear. So Hey,
That doesn't make it good.
I didn't say it was good. I just said I won with it. That's all I said. It won me the game because that was my only out there. um, but anyways, we will, like I said, on Tuesday we'll come back and we'll finish up the deck list, and we'll go from there. But also, let me know what you guys would like for an emote. We've got a terrible emote, and I want to design a new emote, but I don't know what you guys want. So if there's an emote that you think is very fitting for the channel, I'm super happy to do that and build that emote over the next couple of weeks. It won't happen right away because I'm going to be very busy editing decks and editing videos for the tournament. So I hope I can get them all done. I apologize if you want to see the finals from season 1. I apologize, it's not on YouTube yet. It is highlighted and saved on our Twitch. It will not leave our Twitch, so it is there. And I apologize that it has not made its trip over to YouTube yet. It will. It's just been a struggle in the last few weeks, so I apologize for that. But it's like I have a life or something, I don't know what happened. So, and I edited like 15 videos at your house. I mean, like I put up a lot of videos while I was hanging out
I don't know
in
about
Florida.
15, but it was a lot.
It was a lot. I put up a lot of videos, but I still just have a backlog that's a mile long, and I'm sorry for that. So I'm gonna have to probably let some of them drop off because I just don't think I'm ever gonna get to them, or I'm just gonna post them without commentary, and that seems terrible. So it's the commentary that takes a long time. So, all right, folks. Good night. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Tuesday of next week.